So next up we have Alex Hill, who's done a lot of very interesting stuff, in my opinion, with AR, and he's here to share with us about Merlin Mobility, a new venture that he's a part of. So we had video here in a moment.
It was kind of coming. It was there for a second, and then.
Oh, flexing cables.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is Alex Hill. I'm Chief Scientist with Merlin Mobility. We're in Atlanta. So I want to start off first with a little bit of prior work. When I was at Georgia Tech, we developed something called ARGON, and we developed an extension to KML called KARML. And really what it was that we noticed that KML sort of already supported HTML, and we wanted to make AR for the masses. And we also wanted to create a standardized, open standard-based protocol for describing AR content. And in this image here, you can see that a typical balloon that you would have in Google Maps can get presented very similarly in Google Earth. And so you can actually put HTML in those bubbles. We made a browser for the iPhone, and it was, like I said, very standards compliant. We used PhoneGap to communicate back and forth between doing native things in the phone and the native HTML5 renderer on the phone. Because all the content that we did, all the content we did in this browser was just strictly HTML. Because we thought, you know, do you really need a heavy graphic rendering engine to do a lot of what AR is, whether it's geospatial, making user interface elements? So that's one aspect of ARGON. Another thing that we did with ARGON was we took advantage of panoramas a lot. And sometimes you see this where somebody lets you virtually move from one location to another. And this, so this is just an example of here where it's difficult to register content when you're using gyroscopes or geospatial data because of the inaccuracies of GPS. And so if we switch to a panoramic background that we have shot from that location, then we can line up the content much more stably. So this KARML language was very similar to KML, and you could write it in script in an editor, and then you could either play this in a standard KML player like Google Earth, or when you looked at it in our browser, the balloon would be floating there, you know, say on a building. We also found some interesting ways to leverage Google Earth to use the ability to bring models into Google Earth. We use these models as sort of templates of where you wanted to put stuff, and then we arranged those, and then we were able to save out that KML content. I went on to do some work with the W3C, which has now been taken up by the OGC, involving coming up with a public draft of what this kind of augmented reality content description language would be. So I want to set that sort of as the stage to my new position with Merlin Mobility. And what I came away from that experience was that we could really get AR to the masses, and we could allow everybody to create it. But the results of what we could create were a bit less than what my expectations were for AR. I felt that, yes, we want GPS data, but we also need 2D image tracking, which we didn't have. It was kind of clunky at the time, and we need 3D object tracking. And this is becoming more the standard. At the same time, let me get some of these going. At the same time, expectations about what people want to see in augmented reality have increased. This is top left here is an example of where you use it for branding. We recognize a brand and we give some graphics there, and it segues into digital content related to it. In the bottom right, a simulation where somebody could go into a store and look at a faucet and then have that faucet change colors, select different colors, and then cute little trick in this one is that you can sort of see the iPad's reflection in it as it goes around. So these are some more examples of what people are doing with AR. It's product-centric, it's sales-focused. The top left one is something we did for Panasonic. It was shown at the Detroit Auto Show. And it does require the highest level of rendering capability. We're doing real-time reflection mapping. We're doing a lot of very complicated graphics that I think are best suited for something like Unity, which is what we've decided that we would use for our platform. This is an example of something on our website. It's one of the first things we did. It's using IKEA models on existing IKEA instructions. And then here in this, you'll see that we can pick up the leg and we can recognize it, and then that changes how the description of the parts, it highlights it in red. Excuse me. So what we've done, oops, sorry. So what we've done is we're building a software as a service platform for the creation of the kind of content that you were seeing in those videos. For that IKEA example, here we're bringing in a model, uploading multiple file formats like Collada, FBX, etc., manipulating it in a typical fashion, and then publishing it to mobile. And we have a mobile player technology that delivers that content. So in this platform, we're doing visual search, QR code-based recognition, barcode scanning, etc., to get to your content. So the idea is to have a platform that enterprises, this is not necessarily something that we're developing for the general public, but that at the enterprise class level, that people who are making web pages now, making 2D graphics and 3D graphics could use this tool to make and produce and publish AR content for the enterprise. On the player side, we consider, I mentioned Unity, and we think a unique advantage for our company is that we're sort of tracking agnostic. We're not allied to a particular tracking technology, and we see it somewhat as a commodity, that the ability to know where my iPad is and to be able to render things will be somewhat of a commodity. So we can pick and choose. And on the rendering side, as I alluded, a lot of the other companies are using in-house rendering. And I think that there's a lot to augmented reality, but the rendering part needs to be top-notch. So we've developed a player architecture that has a lot of features in it that build into it things that we think that AR needs. And it's not necessarily the rendering. So some AR is, not all the AR is about products. Sometimes it's informative. This is kind of a funny one about showing you how many, I think, CFUs, cell formed units in the bathroom. So we want to do Alchemy Studio, which I was showing you earlier, can do relatively basic things like the earlier videos, product placements. But what we really aspire to do is instructional content, because we think that that's where AR can really have some of the best impact, and a number of studies have borne that out. So this is an example of an application where we have a more traditional instruction, and then we can go right into an AR instruction mode by scanning a QR code on the pump and then going from there. So in this example, the instruction is demonstrating how to dismantle this pump. And we're using some techniques here, such as so here we're using sort of diminished reality techniques to try and hide the parts. Let me scrub ahead here as I'm running out of time. Not sure how to do that. Anyway, so this kind of instructional content is exactly what we're trying to put into our platform. And we're allowing companies to purchase our set of tools on top of Unity to develop their content. And then we're going to be moving these kind of features into Alchemy Studio. Thank you. Well, I mean, I could have shown it to you with AirPlay here today, because everything you run on iOS supports AirPlay. But that may not be the answer you want. I mean, it's easy to put AirPlay in to the app directly now on iOS, and there's no such thing on Android. But our player technology is for Android and iOS. So we do a lot of our demos with AirPlay. In fact, if you come by our booth, you'll see that we're using AirPlay to demo that exact one.
And question over here.
Alex, the player, is that an app that you allow people to skin, or?
Yeah, the app can be white labeled or embedded in a native application.
And one more question.
Just a quick one. I'm just curious. Why do you use QR codes on the instead of some other sort of marketless tracking? Do you actually get information from the QR code since you can embed stuff there, or do you just?
Well, my colleague likes to use the QR codes because sometimes she thinks that says to people marker.
Okay.
But that kind of question is the reason not to. Because we're not really using QR codes anywhere.
It's just something to look at.
I mean, we can trigger scenes. The player can trigger scenes off of barcodes, off of QR codes, or off of just visual search, which you see a lot of, like with other companies. And Roy over there with Vuforia has their cloud-based visual search. So we use that also.
Okay, so next up, thank you, Alex. Definitely.